What up, everybody? This is Andrew Springer. This is my very first episode of The Locals, and I'm super excited to have with me a dude that is, and it's a dude, so spoiler, that is incredibly handsome, super funny, really talented, and you know, if we're going to do this thing and we're not sure how it's going to go, who else would I do this with but my friend Bradford Johnson.
That's true. You know, it's crazy that you flew me all the way to Los Angeles and we're on the set of Selling Sunset right now.
It is wild.
It feels like a little bit of overkill for your first episode.
This window's fake. Like that's not real snow.
Yeah, yeah.
When this get into this because so you're a local. You were born and raised in Central Iowa. I'll let you tell your story, but you were given the name Bradford.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where did that come from? Because to me, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
That you're Bradford.
Yeah.
I don't think you could be a Joe because that's your dad's name for one, I guess. But couldn't be a Steve or a Bill.
I'd have to work a lot harder to be original if I was. But you know, I think my parents were trying to be creative in the 80s, and back then, to be creative, you didn't just make up names like they do now.
Yeah.
You just chose the least used one in the baby book. And I think that's what they did. I don't think it has any. What it means is wide river.
Okay. Well.
Broad fjord.
Yeah. You seem like a broad fjord.
I would if I was a tributary, I'd be a wide one.
You're talented, you know,
Thanks,
and I think that's a good summary of. Like you don't even know his name's Bradford Johnson, right? But he doesn't need to go by. He's just Bradford. Kind of like
there's been many. Actually, one of the most offensive things that you can do to me is assume that it's okay to call me Brad. It happens a lot.
Okay, well, I'm sorry.
No, you've never done that.
Okay,
no,
to your face at least.
Yeah, you can call me whatever you want behind my back, but to my face, if you call me Brad, I probably won't confront you about it, but I'm either going to correct you or harbor bitterness.
Or draw like graffiti somewhere of like my face being smashed in.
It will be stuffed down and manifested in a negative way. That's for sure.
So I want to tell a story about Bradford because I don't know if you guys know this or not about him, but he does not like Hey Dudes. And I'm kind of curious. Yeah, the shoes.
It's a garbage company with a garbage product.
Did they do something unethical?
When he says I do not like them, I'm on a personal vendetta to bankrupt the company.
Okay.
That I loathe them. As a matter of fact, one of the biggest, I would say, successes in my life is there's a full-grown man that's wealthy enough to know better than to buy Hey Dudes. He came up to me after church one day and he said, "Hey man, I just got to tell you, I went to slip on my Hey Dudes the other day, and your vocal hatred of those caused so much guilt in my heart. I took them off and I put them in the trash." I literally almost started crying, dude. Because to me, if you're a respectable human being, your shoes have everything to do with how you display that. Like, look, what do you got on? Ones?
I got Jordan 1s on.
You got Jordan 1s on. That's a respectable shoe. You know what I mean? These are steel-toed leather boots. This has more to do with function over fashion. But what I'm saying is, if you put Hey Dudes on your feet, there's a very clear disconnect between your self-worth and your feet.
Okay. Well, never come. I don't know if I can have you at my house.
Dude,
stay outside.
You're one of my biggest hecklers on that issue, and it's funny because I really see you as a good shoe guy. But I know you have at least one pair of them.
We used to work at Shields, me and my brother.
Yeah.
And they used to give you, the vendors would give you product for dirt cheap. Because I was never going to wear Hey Dude because I thought they were ugly. And so one day they called them Pro Forms, that we got them for $10.
Yeah.
So I'll try them on.
Yeah.
They're comfortable. But
that's the problem.
I mean, they don't always look the greatest. But
you know what else is comfortable? Using drugs. But we don't do that.
Not anymore, do we, Bradford?
I don't anymore. No, that's correct. Is that a good segue?
That's a great segue. So Bradford works for a nonprofit here in town called Change Course. We're my brother and I and the Springer brothers. We're
partners.
Huge fans.
Yeah.
Everything you guys do, I think, is incredible. We need people like your dad and you and Juwan and that team. And so, and what's your role there?
I am it's always evolving, but I'm kind of the rover, but my official title is creative and communications director.
So you're there now, but there was a long, windy road to get there.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, the reason I'm even there has nothing to do with wanting to be there in the first place. Over the last 20 years, when I was 10, my dad went to prison, and it started this intense abandonment complex in me that really kind of has kind of informed every decision I've made since then, both awful and they're getting better. Mm-hmm. But it started this kind of resentment and anger and bitterness towards my dad. And the relationship was never great before he went to prison. He was pretty intense. He was into athletics. I was like a shy, artistic kid. And so we never really saw eye to eye. And when he got back from prison, he was a completely changed person, completely calm, peaceful, showed up for the family in ways that he never had before. But at that point, I was so angry towards him that I just went on this decades-long kind of descent into...
Like you were angry at him for things before, or angry because he put himself in a position that he had to go to jail, or
I
kind
think
of all the above?
When you're 10 and your dad drives you to South Dakota and walks into a prison and is like, bye guys, I think when you're 10, you don't have any way of being able to process, like, yeah, dad made a mistake and now unfortunately he has to pay the consequence. Like I was just at kind of the perfect age for it to hit me in the worst way. And so when he left, I was we were homeschooled, and when he left, we were thrown into public school, which was really brutal because it was a small sports school. The anti-bullying stuff didn't exist then, so I was picked on a lot. And there was a lot of traumatic stuff that happened when he was only gone for 6 months, but it was like it was easily the longest 6 months of my life because it really caused, like I said, close to 20 years of just a downward spiral of me trying to kind of mask the pain and the bitterness that I harbored towards him, and in the process create a lot more of that. And so throughout my teens, I started a punk band, and just because my mom hated that music, and just started doing things kind of based on whatever was as rebellious as possible against the church, my parents, positive role models in my life. And that led me to a lot of bad relationships, a marriage that was very hastily jumped into, and a bad divorce, which just kind of doubled my sense of abandonment, or my fear of abandonment. And then that led to intense drug use when you're in a band and you've got a heroin needle in your arm, it's like glamorous. And so it was pretty easy to justify. When you work at Wells Fargo and you have a coke problem, it's a lot more of a concern, mm-hmm, than if you're playing rock clubs.
That's the culture.
Yeah. And so it was really easy for me to justify with that. I got a lot of positive reinforcement in that situation. The drugs and the alcohol really kind of masked all of this compounded pain that I had created and allowed to happen. And then in my mid-30s, I had gotten back from tour, and I was living in my parents' basement, going out every night, partying. Actually, the bar right next door, I would go a lot. And it just got really dark. Like, it got to a place where it wasn't fun to party anymore, and I started drinking by myself. I started buying, like, 8 balls of cocaine and doing it by myself in my parents' basement. And that's rough. That's a dark place to be. And so my parents just said, you're in your early 30s, like, either get out of our house or you're on the street. Like, you can't live like this anymore. And so they gave me one other option, which was, we'll pay for your treatment, but you have to go out of state and get treatment out there. So I went up to Minneapolis, went to a great treatment facility up there called The Retreat, and that started this process of, ultimately what I know now is the process of restoring my relationship with my dad. I think at first, obviously the first thing on the agenda was getting my drug use and stuff under control. But then eventually, now I'm in ministry with my dad, who was my biggest enemy in my head for so many years, and now he's my best friend and my business partner, and it was a pretty intense. I then. You call me a local. I tried as hard as I could not to be for so many years, because I was like, Iowa has nothing for me. I really wanted to be famous for so many years, and I got right to the brink and just got too scared of it every time. And I'm so grateful. That was such a blessing in disguise, because I moved to LA for a while, and I just really kind of just kept following the brightest light that I could find, or the shiniest object, I should say. And every time I got there, I was like, this isn't it either.
It was like a moving target.
It was like drugs.
Yeah.
It was like every drug felt great for a second, and then after a while, it starts destroying you. And it was kind of the same way for me. And when I realized that the only way out of that chaos was through it, I really kind of was. I was super grateful that I had the opportunity to go to treatment. And then that led to there was like a family day at our treatment center, and it's the one day that family members can come up and spend time with and see the program and all that kind of stuff. And so they have this world-renowned psychologist that comes in and sits with the family and just tries to dig through maybe some of the trauma that had happened. I mean, I can't imagine how intense some of these sessions get, but she kept going, do you have a problem with your dad? And I kept going, no, I'm good. No, he's fine. And then it got to a place where as she started peeling back the layers of the onion and we got to that age 10, I just fell apart. And I think seeing him in that light where he was so earnest and so willing to restore this and so desired a relationship with me, that it really affected me in an intensely emotional way. And I think for the first time, I really saw the desire in his heart to reconnect with his son. Maybe for the first time in a lot of ways. Turns out it was the first time in a lot of ways. And so that started a really intense 5 or 6 next years of us working through issues with verbally forgiving my dad was one of the exercises that she suggested, and that was super intense and emotional. And being able to express my pain and how it hurt me and how it affected me. Him being able to express his pain and what I had put them through, and it just really kind of became this beautiful kind of open communication between a father and son that really never felt like we had anything in common. I think from day one, it was just kind of like my second son and I have more in common, but my firstborn son is just, we're not anything alike. And what we found is we have incredibly similar desires and interests when it comes to the love of people and the service of those in need. Which has been a beautiful thing to experience together. But so then as I when I quit that, I moved to LA for a while, started dating a toxic woman, as you do, and realized pretty quickly if I'm going to do a full transformation and a full surrender to a process of really restoring my life, I have to give all this stuff up. And so I broke up with the girl. I moved back to Minnesota, and I had relapsed in LA, and I got back, and it was kind of in the thick of COVID, right in the beginning. This was 2020, and I got COVID, and I was kind of in a basement of a friend's house I was living in, just chugging liquor. I mean, like a fifth a day of just whiskey by myself in the dark with COVID. It was ugly. And then in one of those kind of drunken stupors, I went, I need detox. And for the first time ever, I went to medical detox and sat in a hospital room by myself for 5 days, and no one came to visit me. And in that moment, I went, I'm completely in charge of how loved I am. And I think that was when I realized I had made myself the victim for the last 20 years and blamed everybody but myself. and realized that my dad's trauma that was caused when I was young maybe started this, but I've continued it for way longer than it should have been. And so then I got sober. I started serving at a church in a great ministry called Celebrate Recovery, and just to join it. And then I started leading worship there, and then I started getting more connected. And right as I felt like I was really planting a good, healthy life in St. Paul's where I was living, my dad calls me and goes, "I'm starting a nonprofit, and I need you. And I went, "You can't pay me enough. I'm getting paid really well. I had a great job up there. I'm just getting plugged in." He goes, "All right, come down, brand the company." And then just meet the people.
Because that's kind of what you do, right? I mean,
I have a design degree.
Yeah.
I'm grateful because my first marriage, her dad was like, "I'll let you marry my daughter, but you have to get a degree." And so I just picked graphic design, and I was really good at it. And so that was that had become my career before everything hit the fan. And so I branded his company, and I came down and I did like a open house event with the first class that we ever had, and I just fell in love with these people. I mean, it was like people that you would see at the grocery store and walk by, but the stories that they were telling were so heavy and dark, and they were sharing it with such vulnerability and such openness, and I had never experienced that except in treatment, and it took like weeks to get these people to that point. Yeah. But these people were just showing up. And I mean, my family has a gift of being able to bring out I don't like small talk. My parents don't like small talk. It's like, "How are you doing?" "Great." "How are you doing, dude?" Because I know you're not doing good because I'm not doing good. It's like, let's just be real here. Like I'm so sick of the surfacey stuff, especially after you've almost died a bunch of times. You're like, let's just cut this, man. If this is going to be our friendship, I'm not interested. I want somebody that holds me accountable and vice versa. And so I think just having that kind of ethos and culture in Change Course that my parents had started, and the people they kept hiring were broken people too, and it was just so beautiful, man. And there was nothing perfect about it, and that was the whole point. And so I fell in love with these people, and I think within that month I put in my 2 weeks and moved down, just really feeling like God was leading me back to Iowa. I really didn't want to move back here. It's not depending on who you talk to, it's just not an exciting place to live. And I think that's the joy of it to a lot of people. But when I moved down, I realized that the excitement happens when you involve yourself in others' lives.
That's good.
And so when I got down here, I started a band, or I joined a band that was popular here. That was a cover band. And so that was kind of cool, keeping my ego out of it. That was why I quit music in the first place. And so it's 50s and 60s cover band. So we dress up like idiots and dance around for pregnant.
Probably can't have an
divorced
ego.
And divorced older moms.
You can't have an ego playing 50s and 60s music that somebody else wrote.
No, dude. Yeah. And you can't have an ego getting hit on by 65-year-old drunk women either. It just doesn't feed the ego quite as well, which is beautiful. I love it. But then another blessing that came from that is I met my wife, my current wife. And after my first divorce, I was pretty broken when it came to relationships. And so I'd always seek a very specific type of woman. And I'm sure you know the type, daddy issues. And so after enough of those failed relationships and the chaos that I put myself in, I was like, I'm never dating again. And that's literally where I had gotten to. I'm like, I'm going to be celibate the rest of my life, and that's fine. I've gone way too far. I'm good. And God blessed me with a woman that apparently came to one of my last original band's shows. We had one reunion show when I moved back, and before we broke up, her friend dragged her there, and she left halfway through the second song and goes, "This band sucks." Green flag, by the way. And so as she's leaving, some guy goes, "Hey, are you Bradford's girlfriend?" She's like, "Who's Bradford?" Another green flag.
Yeah.
Then that night, I guess she looks me up. Knowing her now, this is wild that she even did this, but she looked me up on Instagram and added me. And I remember the day she added me because she's hot. And I was like, hot girl added me on Instagram. I'm single.
She must dig me.
I'm going to message her. And the first thing I messaged her was, hey, we should go on a date sometime. And I'm sure she's a very practical woman. And I know that in her head, she was probably like, this guy's insane. So she goes, no, I'm not available. And then like that Saturday night, I think a week later, I get a message from her and she's like, hey, actually I'm available tonight if you are. And I'm going, jackpot. I had no idea if she was a Christian. I had no idea if in my head, I would go, she's probably nuts, because that's who I attract. And then 4 months later, we were engaged. That's long story short, we were engaged. We got married super quick. And, marriage is the biggest challenge ever. Parenting, she also had a daughter. And so that's been a huge, there's really no good references on being a good step parent. As a matter of fact, the only stepdads I knew of were like the stereotypical weirdo, angry, creepy stepdad. Mm-hmm. And I'm just like, I don't know. I know how to be an uncle. So I guess I'll just try being that. And it's been such a beautiful, complex, incredible journey. Very difficult, very humbling. But it's just like God keeps handing me these things that humbles me just enough to that next step. And so now I'm kind of getting more excited about whatever is next in that journey for me. And so that's kind of where I'm at now. That was 3 years ago.
Has your your restoration with your dad, do you find that has made you a better father, to your
dude? When I
learned from that,
when the wool was pulled over my eyes and I realized how incredible of a man my dad was, my entire reality shifted, because then my role models started shifting from like Andre 3000 and Jack White to like Joseph Johnson. And the older I get, the more I'm like, I used to go, I really don't want to turn into my dad. And now as I see it happening, it brings so much joy to me, because he's such a superhero when it comes to his character. And I think that in this culture, like men especially, finding a man with culture, with dignity and integrity, that leads his family with purity and love for his kids and wife, who doesn't talk about women as objects, who doesn't drink, that focuses on his faith first and his family second. I mean, it's such a dying breed, unfortunately, or it has been up until now. And so it's been the biggest blessing has been being able to now anchor. I always say, I know what it's like to have a bad dad and I know what it's like to have a good dad, because I've had both in one guy. And to be able to anchor and emulate who I'm becoming and who I want to become to my dad, who's by the way, once I lost that militant kind of like respect, like yes sir, and started seeing him as a human and as a man, it was really scary. It's weird to see your dad become, be a human and not invincible. But once you do that and you see that, you start understanding what he also had to get through, and what led him to prison, and how hard he's worked, and the discipline that it took to be a good dad like that, And it's so inspiring to me, because like I remember growing up going, oh, being a dad, you're just a dad now. Like you pray with your kids now, and you eat at the dinner table, and you get home at the same time. And I'm like, no, it's really intentional to be a good dad, to be a good husband. It takes a ton of
I think there's a big difference between having a kid and being a father.
Absolutely. Same with being a husband and being married.
Yeah.
I think that our role as Christian husbands, dude, it's a pretty intense role. It's to be the spiritual leader is not to be the boss.
Right.
It's to lead by example of what integrity looks like, what character looks like, taking responsibility for your mistakes looks like. And there's a lot of fear, and I think that us figuring out how to process that fear and not necessarily make it our wife's problem is probably has been my biggest struggle, is figuring out how not to be completely emotionally codependent on my wife to make me feel better about the fact that I'm terrified about how we're going to pay bills that month. instead just going, I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to call somebody that can help me with this, and I'm going to make more money. And God's really blessed our family financially this last year. We were really, really struggling because I took a half pay cut to work at Change Course, and through prayer and hard work, I mean, my art career this year, art has been more of a blessing financially than anything, and that is wild, because I had quit painting, when I was a kid. I quit painting and stopped doing it for 15 years probably, and so the fact that I've still got that gift, and that God didn't take that away, and I still get to play music and have fun doing it, but stay humble and stay sober. It's just been such an amazing journey.
I've just found too, like in those moments of struggle, like I've just learned as you go through it and you pray, like God's going to take care of you, especially when you're working for His kingdom.
And if you pray and don't expect that to happen, you're not having faith. And I've witnessed so many miracles in my life. Every single one has to do with God being faithful with people that had initially asked Him to be a part of their lives. And
it doesn't always, the blessing doesn't always look how, and it rarely looks like how we ask for it.
It never in my life looks like that. I'm starting to get better at stopping to asking for a specific blessing and just asking God to take care of things. And then you start feeling more appreciative of the things that show up, because what I thought was I didn't realize that having a stepdaughter was a blessing. As a matter of fact, when we first got married, I was like, this is a real pain, because I'm not her dad. She's not gonna run into me. I don't have that parental, connection with her organically. But as I really dedicated myself, and as I've really kind of like poured into that relationship, it's completely changed the dynamic of what a blessing looks like for me, because she's one of the biggest blessings of my life now, and I love her so much, and we have such a great relationship, but it took a lot of hard work. And so I thought blessing was money, happiness, health, all that stuff. And if I have any of those things, those are absolutely blessings. But what I'm finding is the blessings that teach me things and really satiate me really are typically things I would never have considered in the first place.
I think I've shared this with other people too, but like I've found the most kind of the most faithful thing you can do is to have gratitude. Because sometimes it's you really got to dig deep. For me, like sometimes I got to dig deep on when I'm having a bad day, or bad hour, whatever. I got to dig deep on. I'm not really grateful for anything. What if the Lord? And then you start thinking like, oh my gosh, like I've never been without a roof. I have vehicles that work.
Yeah.
Then you start getting, and you're like, man, I am. There's miracles everywhere.
Totally, dude. And I've lost so many people that I think I realized that the key to gratitude is continuously shifting perspective. Yeah. But what I'm realizing is when your lives are here all the time, there's no possible way for you to be grateful for it. I don't want to have to lose my dad to be grateful for who he is in my life. Yeah. So now I'm constantly going, it's like when I'm painting up here all the time, but then you got to step back to really understand the beauty of life.
Yeah, I think that's part of faith too, is like, okay, Lord, like this doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Like you step back and you're like, okay, only He could do that.
Totally, dude. And I think that it's a real skill to be able to step back and appreciate it. And for me, it comes in just quiet meditation of me just going, man, my wife pissed me off this week. But man, I love her so much, because no other woman on this earth could handle the intensity that I bring, or we just got 2 dogs because my wife wanted one. And I just walked into the bedroom the other day after finishing a painting.
You got 2 dogs because your wife wanted one?
Yeah, dude. Because she met sister dogs and they were a package deal. And I had a moment of weakness and a moment of generosity. And I just walked into our room the other day and I stepped in the biggest puddle of diarrhea. And I was like, I'm going to kill something. And I didn't. I just cleaned it up and I went to bed. And the next day I went, this is, I read this stupid thing online that said, I'm so grateful to be overwhelmed by the life that I once prayed for. And I'm like, I remember sitting in this, like in a jail cell one time going, dude, I would love a wife, a kid, and 2 dogs. I remember thinking that. And I woke up the next day and I just see these 2 dogs that just love me unconditionally. And I'm going, I prayed for this.
You got it. Yeah.
But what I'm learning in those moments is humble yourself and realize this stuff all comes with it. The intensity, the hard nights, the tears, the arguments, that's all part of it. But really the whole point of all of this is to sharpen us and to make us better people. So I'm just trying to take it as it comes now.
Yeah.
I'm horrible at it, but I'm working at it.
Well, I'm glad that you came here today.
I love you, man.
Talk to me.
Yeah.
And talk to our friends. We have a live studio audience back here.
We do. They're really interested in what we're saying right now.
Yeah.
They're talking quietly amongst themselves. I think we lost their attention.
Yeah.
You know, I really did come in. The last podcast I did, I was like, I went too heavy. And I was thinking about funny things, funny anecdotes, and I went, I'm going to be super light here. And I don't think I can help it.
No.
I call my dad the white MLK, and I'm like MLK Jr., I guess.
Yeah.
It's all that matters to me is transformation and growth and being and inspiring others and letting other people know how available transformation actually is. But there had to be a community created for that, and that's what Change Course is. And we realized that we can't tell people to transform and find a community if we're not providing one. And so whether it's at work or it's in my living room, my entire goal in this life is to consistently create safe communities for people to just exist and be loved regardless of their background.
Yeah. And I think just knowing your dad a little bit, your dad, he's always so great to talk to. Knowing your brother, knowing your family, like I don't know that there's a better group of people that could do this. Knowing Jawan, knowing Bobby,
we have such a killer team, man.
And so
just hearts for people, man. It's beautiful. I cry a lot at work. It's the first time I've ever said that, but we cry a lot at work. But it's because
it's all those dang cats that get in there.
It's all the diarrhea on the floor in my bedroom. But yeah, it's a beautiful thing, man. And there's a lot of work to do. That's the thing. When God finally said to me, okay, you're healthy enough to start helping, I realized there's a lot of work to do. There's a lot of broken, hurting people.
I'm glad that you're in the field and plowing.
Me too, bro.
And I want everyone out there to help,
dude,
because they can't. Des Moines is a big city, and there's a lot of hurting people.
And he can say that because I love guys like you, because you go, how can we help? And we list our needs, and you go, we can help with this, this, and this. And that's what a real network is. That's what that's really what the church should do. Unfortunately, the church has created a place that doesn't feel safe to some people. And so standing outside of that, whether I believe that that's the case or not, I love partnering with guys like you and with organizations like yours that do something different than ours, but have resources that are different than ours and are able to provide that. And so, it's becoming a very intense, beautiful kind of tapestry, spanning across Iowa and further. That's really just people providing resources to help people in need. So,
you've had a wild life, man. And I thought, if we're gonna do this, I got to do it with someone's got to go first that can really, do the weird stuff, you know how it's going to go. It's going to be weird.
I went on one podcast where they were asking me to share stories about my dark times. And I'm like, I don't think you can post this. I don't think you could post that. It wasn't a family friendly thing, but I shared a little bit and they went, all right, that's enough.
Yeah. I mean, I think people need to know the story,
because
I think it makes
it's
what you do so much, I think, more credible.
If I still have some of my friends go, dude, I still can't believe you got sober, because I was the guy who was partying all morning, all afternoon, and all night.
I mean, think about all the greats in the Bible.
That's it, though, dude. It's like if I can get help, And if I can help others, anybody can, because I'm the most selfish, worthless dude in the world when I let myself take over.
Yeah.
And when I realized that we're all just vessels, man, and whatever you allow yourself to allow to drive you, that's what it's going to drive you towards. And I let the devil drive me for so long that when I finally let Jesus take the wheel, all of a sudden I just started just driving into just these beautiful places, bro. And sometimes the road is narrow and boring or scary or whatever, but man, it always leads to a destination where life exists in. So I'm never stopping, bro. I'm an addict for life, but I'm addicted to loving others now, and I can't stop. It's crazy.
Hey, dude, thanks for coming.
Dude, I don't want to pound you after that, but I love you.